Valley farmer here, been running up until last year a CSA, which I don't know if you guys know what that stands for.
Define it.
Community Supported Agriculture. Basically, building a relationship between farmer and customer or eater, and a commitment, a seasonal commitment. So with that, we've had maybe more customers in Anchorage, just because proximity is more difficult for Anchorage people to get a direct line on food. So we had in our CSA 150 members max. We peaked out at that point, but shrank to about 100 and coasted there for maybe 15 years. But we've had our farm for 35. So the CSA was the foundation of it, and in that process of building the CSA, we basically built a place in the community and relationships with a lot of people, and found that we had also too much produce to do just that. So we started going to the Farmers Market in Anchorage, and that became about half of what we could produce. And so then, realizing that the CSA wasn't as popular in the Valley, there was something that we needed to do differently for Valley people. And maybe 15 years ago, we started running a farm stand, one really tiny 2-hour period a week, where people could come to our farm and shop as though they were at a farmer's market, buy whatever they want. They didn't have to commit to a certain share of our harvest every week. They could choose what they wanted. And it was actually kind of a light bulb. People showed so much more interest in that than our CSA. So that's been very successful. It happens once the produce is flowing, Friday evenings from 5 to 7, which is concurrent with there's a fling.
Friday fling, yeah.
In Palmer, which we, way back, 25 years ago or 20, we tried to go to that market in Palmer and sold 3 bunches of radishes and just said, okay, we're not doing that. That was a lot of time spent. So what we find as farmers is we just have to figure out how to spend as little time marketing as possible. And that's what was so beautiful with the CSA, was that you had a relationship built, commitment from your customer, and we would just get to the work of growing the produce. So now what's available? We've phased. Last year we experimentally, opted out of doing the CSA for the first time in 30 years. It turned out to be a really good thing for us. A couple of reasons. Obviously we're getting older. We started in our 30s and we're not in our 30s anymore. And the other thing is the climate. We just were thrown by unexpected challenges last year, and our productivity was way down. And so we realized the direct to customer marketing that works the best is a farmer's market or a farm stand where just what we have is there. We haven't made a commitment, but we do still value that relationship, a committed relationship with our consumers. So in place of that, we started a new program that is a CSA card, which is basically, because of technology, we can also swipe it. Couldn't have done that, have a little phone to do it on. So all of that, we've sort of caught up with the times, and sounds like Allie, you figured out a good way too with that.
We'll see. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So is that a preloaded, you buy a farm gift certificate?
Buy it ahead, exactly. And last year we actually phased it in to give our past CSA members, which we felt sort of like, oh my God, how can we sever this connection that's not too painful for either one of us? And so we offered it out at a $300 minimum. Our CSA shares were $650 for the whole summer, and they lasted, mid-June to end of September. So this was a way of, sort of saying, okay, you can commit to us at a much smaller level and just buy whatever you want. And there's a 5% discount on it, actually a 5% bonus, so you get some anyway, that's an offering, but it isn't our main thing anymore. I mean, CSA was our main thing to start with, and now really the markets, our Friday farm stand is great here in the valley, and then we also go to the farmers market in Anchorage, but that's not a good option for you guys, because actually what happens on Friday evenings is the whole entire harvest, every single item that we're going to take into Anchorage is available to the valley to buy. So, you know, if there are special items that sell out, you get them in the valley.
Get the best stuff first before it goes
Yeah.
to Anchorage.
And it's fresh.
Yeah.
We do our harvest Friday, you know, we don't do it Saturday morning. We did in the beginning, but anyway.
Yeah, we did. We did it at 4.
We didn't have much to harvest, you know, that was a long time ago anyway. So other than that, for valley eaters, we also in the winter have a weekly special order set program where you can go online and get on our little job form and tell us what you want. You just come on at your convenience after packing day, which is usually Wednesdays. Anytime, self-serve, come in, pick up your stuff, leave the money. We don't look, you know, it's total trust, and you are coming on our farm, but so, you know, we know you, we want to know you at least a little, but that you can do weekly, bi-weekly, all winter long. We just sold out yesterday. Yes, we're done with the winter, but so I can't offer that to you right now, but that's something that we grew out of our CSA just to extend it into more of a, not year-round, but all, you know, as far into the spring as possible. We also do plant sales in the spring, our greenhouses, to help fund running the greenhouses for our own transplants for the field. We're selling all of May and into the middle of June. Pretty much every single day you can walk in and do your shopping for your garden starts, grow your own, which I totally encourage. And we also sell fertilizers at that point. We're known for our tomato plants, which we have already started. I'm busy watering them under artificial lighting. Already warm basement, just gleaning there. So those, I've always encouraged people to grow your own tomatoes, because what we have to charge per pound is, and they're very possible to grow in pots, you know, in your own porch. So what did I miss?
What are the logistics of the card? Do they call you? Do they email you if you wanna prepay for the card?
Various ways. The cheapest way is to pay by check, and then we would just have it there for you to pick up at the first farm stand visit. Or just buy it there. There's no pre-buy needed.
Where the farm stand is.
Oh, it's on our farm, which is our farm is out Smith Road, which is 3 miles out the old Palmer Highway toward the Butte. So it's just past the Lazy Mountain turnoff, and then we're just a mile off the road. It is just a neighborhood. We like to think we improve the property values with our beautiful view onto our farm, but yeah.
Please tell us your farm name.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
This is so small, isn't it? From that distance. Arctic Organics is our farm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mention your market.
Our
You
market?
mentioned the Anchorage market.
Oh, I did mention the Anchorage Farmers Market on Saturdays, but we're pretty sure also doing we did it last year, the Airport Heights Farmers Market on Wednesday evenings or afternoons.
Can you actually, because a lot of people are confused about what organic means, and so just a quality conversation about what does it mean to be USDA organic versus what you guys are actually doing.
The can of worms.
Yes. Yeah.
Just the overview.
Yeah, you don't have to go too far down the
That's
rabbit hole.
one thing I will claim association with too, is that way back when we first started farming, we realized in Alaska there was no regulation about organic farming, and it sort of rubbed us wrong, because we come from Washington's getting educated in Washington State, and my husband having done ecological agriculture program at the Evergreen State College. So we really had an idea of what a state like Washington was doing to certify organic farming, and came to Alaska, and we went to market, and we were like selling things right next to other people who were claiming that their product was organic. And we talked to them, and we realized no, they actually really weren't as organic as what was becoming the standard around the country in the 90s. So we founded the Alaska Organic Association with I think there were definitely 4 board members, but we had maybe 7 people on the board altogether, and it included people like Mark Rempel and Larry DeBilbus and River and does anyone remember who else was on that? That's a long time ago. Anyway, that was all great, and we actually adopted standards from California CCOF, which was a main, they volunteered, gave us their text and said just change it how you need it, whatever and that made it super easy, so we could adapt it to Alaska, and started the association certifying farms, and wound up, had inspectors come up, and all kinds of standards that were really top of what Oregon Tilth was using, and CCOF in California, and then the National Organic Standards came into being, and that was a federal program that was supposed to put organic on the map, and instead what it did was make sure that organic could be adopted super quickly nationwide by an agriculture system that just wasn't there. I mean, they weren't set up, weren't interested. All they were interested in was profiting, and so in the end, I always say it's awful, but places like Walmart could sell organic produce or organic food, and it was just watered down to a corporate level so that big farms could go organic really fast, and it just wasn't, it's not possible to grow clean food on a giant corporate conventional farm in 3 years. It's just not, and we knew that. So we did not subscribe to get certified under that. Those conditions, and we haven't since. We were fortunate to have already established our farm with its name, because what's happened since the NOP started regulating organic is using the word organic is highly illegal. $10,000 fine if you use it and you're not certified. So we did get somebody dinged us, alerted the NOP that we were using the word organic. They contacted us with this certified letter. It was very, we were like, oh God, what now? And we wrote back. They said, well, how can you use that word? And we wrote back, explained why, and that we had the farm name for I don't know how many years at that point, and they said, okay, thanks, and filed it. And we've never heard a thing, and it's because, it's not, so we're very careful. You notice I haven't told you I grew organic. But we do use the standard that the Alaska Organic Association established up here, and we have not changed a thing, except we have discontinued rampant use, large, use of Alaska fish bone meal, only for the reason that we finally have so much salt in our soil, we have to. It's like making the nutrients unavailable, so we had to stop using it, thanks to getting our soil tested and just keeping up with our nutrient program for our soil. So we're not using that anymore, which is sad. It's local, and we very much liked being able to use a local product. Anyway, that's the organic question.
Sarah brings up a really good point, I think, and it's just something that I always try to encourage people to think about is I think at least like all my customers over the last, 12 years at Farmers Market, more are asking the farmer how they grow, but I think the one thing I just really encourage you to do is always ask the farmer how they grow, because there's a big assumption in Alaska that everyone grows organically and no one uses chemicals, and that's really not the case.
Yeah.
And
I would say the majority of farms around here use synthetic chemicals or synthetic fertilizers, and they have practices that you may or may not agree with. So I just really encourage you to make sure that you're always asking, so that you're familiar with what their practices are and how they're growing and what they're using on their crops.
yeah, I mean, you may not know what to do with that information. That's
another part.
Yeah. But it is an assumption a lot of people make, is just fresh is the same, and it's not. I mean, if you're seeking specifically toxin-free produce or food, it's worth getting familiar with those kinds of what it is.
I know that grocery stores like Fred Meyer like to support Alaska grown food. Is there any efforts to get them to support locally grown Alaskan chemical-free food?
Yeah, I mean, they're very, I mean, in the end, there aren't that many certified organic farms in Alaska. Michelle, I just don't know who they might be. Rempel, yeah. And see, the motivating factor is you're not allowed to resell a produce if the original produce, the produce that the reseller is procuring is not certified as organic. So we don't wholesale to anybody. We sell direct to everybody we sell to. So we're not caught in that, you know. But if we wanted to sell our produce at Fred Meyer, yes, we would have to be certified. And right now, as far as I understand, the only way to get certified is through the state of Washington. And you know when the inspector's coming, if he's coming at all, he or she, and may not even come. And you may never get inspected, and that's the produce that's going to market. So.
Well, and then there's other regs that Dunleavy was getting rid of that wouldn't allow farmers to sell through the grocery stores, but there's that, oh yeah.
At all?
Yeah, it
Organic
wasn't
or
going to be
not?
possible
Yeah,
for a while.
yeah.
So there's it's not easy, which is why we're trying to get
Creative,
not go to the grocery store.
direct to farmer.
Right.
Just go to the
That's
farm.
good,
Yeah, I mean, the scale of farming in Alaska is not, most farmers are pretty darn small, and we value the direct relationship. I mean, it's just otherwise the cost of living is still high for us. Energy is super high, except for Allie.
Energy needed.
Just human energy.
Yeah. Job security, right?
Which was really my motivation to do this is like, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to meet each of these guys. I did the CSA for, I don't know, a handful of years, and it's amazing. And I want people, like when I sit down and talk to people about health and food and that kind of stuff, like it just became so clear that we don't know where to get it.
Right.
And I know enough of these guys that I'm like, wait a minute, if you want food, like I want you to know who Allie is and who Sarah is and who Susie is and Michelle.
That she even has the
and
farm
Denise.
stand. How great is that? Like that's
Right.
something
And
I
so
would love to
and
do.
so the goal is to continue to expand this. And most of you that know me, I'm a bit biased to cleaner food. We are beyond we're beyond, like, I'm avoiding toxins. Like we're beyond that. We're mitigating our toxin exposure every day. We need to think about that because we're getting it, whether it's lotion you put on your skin, it's food you're eating, that kind of stuff. So if we can at least get a good chunk of our food that's clean, I mean, that's going to go a long way in our health, and kind of what Jennifer had said about our kids. And really, when you think about it, it really is it's our soil. Like we are what we're in our surroundings. So if we can't start to like invest in that, like we're going to be in trouble. I mean, we already are as a country and a world. We're in trouble. Like you can see it with chronic disease, but the more that we can reach out to these guys, this helps them. And Fred Meyer's not going to go out of business. Cars isn't going to go out of business. But let's do what we can to like.
So these guys don't go out of business.
Right. Like I want to support these guys because they're trying to bring good things directly to us. So I think that is the most important thing, and that's the value that I want to create here. I love these people. I want them to be here as long as they can do and want to do what they're doing. And because I love all of you guys as well, I want you to be well and to know who these people are. So my hope is that we can even expand on this, because there's certainly, I'm sure, just as many more growers in the area, or maybe Fairbanks or whatever, that like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And really to increase that network. And for each of these guys, you know, I spend a lot of time going and learning how other practitioners do things. And for each of these guys, learning how, like, wait, how do you do that? You know, and it's about survival. You know, like, hopefully these guys aren't going to end up selling doTERRA oils too, because they're trying to survive. But you know, like, that's not, I mean, but everybody is trying to survive, and it's trying to figure out, how do I do this? And when we can all learn from one another, you know, about how do you run your herd share? Is a CSA working, or no? You know what? The compressed 2-hour farm stand, people know where it is, when it is, and they show up and they can get what they want. So
Just in time for the weekend.
right. Exactly.
And this is a
amazing.
food security issue too. I mean, there's a lot of things that play into this. You know, you're lowering your carbon footprint by getting things locally. But I just saw a meme that was like, you might need a police officer once in your life. You might need a fireman once in your life, but you need a farmer every day, 3 times a day. Right?
Yeah.
So where we put, you know, it's put your money where your mouth is. It's like, this is what's really important, is where our food comes from and the quality of our food. And I think that it's like something that we just take for granted because you can just go in the supermarket. But, you know, if you're paying attention to what's going on around the world right now, and food shortages and, you know, in places where people are worried about, you know, the coronavirus, it's like to have the food here and not worry about where's it going to be shipped in from, to have access to it locally.
Not
Is, yeah.
subscribing,
Mhm.
not supporting
Yeah.
that whole
Mhm.
fossil fuel dependency where you're actually needing it shipped. You know, and that's that was one of the first things we
Yeah.
also
Wouldn't it be
realized,
amazing
besides
if
lack of
the
organic was
Yeah.
that this is crazy to ship food in here. We can grow it here.
Right.
Let's just prove we can do it.
yeah, like if we can make the valley self-supportive, you know, to a certain extent, you know, I don't know what percentage. Do you know what percentage of
Oh, it's
food?
still tiny.
It's like less than
Yeah.
1%,
It
or
used to be
like
way bigger during colony days.
Mhm.
It was 30. I don't know. How much of our own produce did we grow here? 50%?
Wow.
90? I don't know. A huge amount.
But growing up, I know that even living in the bush, we ate so much more local food.
Yeah,
than
yeah.
we do now.
Well, you had to.
Well, it was available.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had all the milk products. We had, you know, there were so many more things available in those days than there is now. Strawberries from Hanes.
If you want to know about Ken Meter, did the Ken Meter report about, is that on the Farmland Trust website? Do you know? About how much food we would have to grow, like how many acres it would take to grow enough food for all Alaskans, and that is also kind of including the hunting and fishing and the gathering and the other aspects. But it's totally feasible, and I think right now, actually, my feeling is that there are enough farmers who just need support. There are a lot of people growing, there's a lot more potential for growth, but there's that lag of like the importance and the value of what we're doing, and of just that health and wellness, and it's there and it's available. And as a
Needing to be direct, though, I find that after this many, 3 decades of farming, direct contact with my customers is still absolutely essential, because any middle person, just like in the big world, they take a cut and we can't afford it. So
I just wanted to put in a plug for Farmland Trust too, because you know, the loss of farmland is a really significant problem. People don't really understand. They see, you know, drive around the valley, you see all this empty space. Well, not all of that is land that you can grow produce on. And around the Springer system, this is the only place in Alaska that has Class 2 soils, which are the best for agriculture. And it's like becoming a giant subdivision, because the developers, they like farmland because it's already flat and there's no trees, and they can scrape all that great topsoil off and sell it and then sell it back to the people who want a lawn in front of their place. So you can grow a lot of food on a small amount of land if you have good soils and if you take care of the soils. And so I really encourage people to help support Farmland Trust, because it's really hard for the farmers who, you know, they get to an age where they can't farm anymore, their kids maybe don't want to do it, and the developer comes in and says, I'll give you $6 million for this plot. It's really hard for you to judge them, for them to say no, they don't want to do that. So the Farmland Trust just helps to like mitigate that loss to the farmer and you know, keep that soil available for future generations, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Grow veggies, not houses.
Right, right. That's a shirt right there.
Yeah,
Trust has a program this year. Their goal is to have 2,020 people commit to participation as sustaining members at $10 a month, and with that $10 a month, 2,020 people, they would be assured that they could then purchase one easement per year without depending on state and federal funds. And it's a super simple process. It's $10 a month for a couple and a half. Oh, there's less.
And speaking of the Farmland Trust,
Late, sorry.
Little late night at the farm house.
So I'll just say one more thing for us, my little plug. I brought my iPad, and I'd like to, we have an email list where we actually send out notices that say what we have that week, especially in the winter. But in the summer, I do send it out as regularly as I can once the harvest is happening. So it's kind of like hot off the press on Friday. But if you'd like to be signed up with that, I'll just be back there.
Sarah, do you still do your little recipe?
No, I gave. That was the best thing to give up.
I bet, but I gotta tell you,
Maybe I'll do a cookbook. I don't know. But.
I learned so much. So when for a few years, you know, like I'm me in my house, so I would get this I'd get a family share, and so, and you know, unfortunately, I was probably way healthier then, because I was like eating vegetables. I was all the time. But the coolest part for me, like I would get all these different things that I was like, I don't even know what this is. But the cool thing is at the time, Sarah always there was like this little newsletter, so I would I'd be like, oh, that's what I can do with Mizuna or Mabuna or Tatsui.
See, I would put those letters together after the harvest on Wednesday before I had to leave for Anchorage, and I'd just be solving this puzzle, like all these ingredients. Okay, which recipes? File through and
well, fortunately, I have so many of them, and I have still some very favorites that I use. I know, a recipe book, watercress dressing, holy detox capability, and it's really good. You know, but it's really neat. And I think the cool thing about working with all of these guys is you are going to get introduced to some things that you're not seeing at Fred Meyer or Cars that you're like, what? And it's fun. Yeah. I mean, if you're not an adventurous eater, it might be a bit challenging, but
You can stir fry
exactly. And it's really amazing. And I can vouch for produce. It's just
My first summer here,
So
I'm
different.
standing in your farm stand and I'm looking at a kohlrabi and I'm thinking, what? And the woman next to me goes, oh, I have this great recipe it's a Siberian kohlrabi dill salad. I'm like, oh, tell me that. So hers used mayonnaise. I ended up using apple cider vinegar instead. It was dill, kohlrabi, and I used Chinese rice wine vinegar, or you can use mayo if you want the extra fat. And it's the best thing ever. Kohlrabi and dill is my favorite combination. So it was 2005. And literally I was just standing there going, what do I do with this? And the woman's like, oh, I know what to do with that. So yeah, just ask
that's
people.
Been really fun to introduce things to people, but yeah, now they have
Good.
to use it.
Is there a way, I mean, I love this in the way to direct people to learn anything, get to know your farmer, and we have some really good ones here, but because that model of the CSA is a new, kind of a moving thing, it'd be great to have a master list to know that Sarah was open to the public.
So-
And is there a way to coalesce all that?
Right.
Because I think that's a missing piece here is, you don't know where to go.
totally agree. And
That's not happening,
It
is it?
almost has to be online.
Elastic.
So Gina was able to create for me when, like, fortunately for those of you guys know that Gina in my office, like, she's like my lifesaver. I'm like, I kind of think maybe we could do whatever, and Gina comes to me like by the end of the day, like, yeah, I think I got it figured out. So if you scan the little QR code with your phone, it's going to take you to our webpage, and it's got everybody's contact info. If I can then get like, and I can't remember because I didn't put it together, thank God Gina did it. But we can update so we can have farm stand, and what I'd like to, like hours even, and what I'd like to do then as we learn who else does this, which there are people, I want to try and keep just updating that. So at least, like I don't have the most like, I don't know, out there webpage in the universe, but like if there's a place that you guys know, like then we can have it there, and I think that's a start. And I have like I'm good with sharing whatever we have everywhere. Like I want that because I think a rising tide's going to lift all boats here, and so the more awareness we can raise, and so like if somebody else is like, hey, can I have that list for my whatever, like perfect. And I don't know, maybe that's something we could do with the Farmland Trust or with, and I have not even started to talk to those guys. I thought about that first, and I was like, okay, it's going to get bigger than I even know what to do with before we start. But I think there would be a way to do that. And for a while, we used to have Friends of Matsu, and then there was another Matsu thing we had for a little while here in Palmer, and I think that maybe fizzled out, but that was trying to do that same thing. What can you get around here?